So I promised you guys a while back that we would be doing a reaction to a documentary about Pele. So yeah, man, a lot of you have been telling me that Pele is the greatest footballer of all time. He invented a lot of skills that we would later see in the 80s, 90s, modern football too. And he did it without a single person even having to train him to do it because nobody was doing what he was doing at the time. So here we go, man. I'm excited for this one. Also, RIP to Pele. Oh, I can already tell this is going to be incredible. The king of football. An unauthorized story of Pele.
In the world of football, Brazil is the superpower.
I'm about to say, I think I just saw Ronaldo in there. I can tell who he is by his head shape.
Thousands turn out just to watch them train.
Just to watch them train.
Today's Brazilian team contains superstars like Ronaldinho,
Today's
Kaká,
how old is this documentary?
and Robinho. In Brazil, football is in the blood, and it has been like this for generations. From the beaches of Rio to the back streets of Sao Paulo, there is always some sort of game going on. This passion for the game has produced many champions. But there is only one man who is known as the king of football, Pele.
Damn, dude, this has to be a super old documentary. If they're talking about today's stars and who they mentioned.
In 1957, in his first full year with Santos, and at the age of 16, Pele became the Campeonato Paulista's highest scorer. He remained the league's top scorer for 9 consecutive years.
Jesus. At 16, too, starting all that at 16 is crazy.
The 1958 World Cup in Sweden, and immediately the young Pele was in Brazil's national team.
Damn.
My first World Cup, I was 17 years old, was a beautiful history because 8 years before Brazil lost for Uruguay, the World Cup in the 50s. And my father was crying with a lot of Brazilians there. And then my father used to say, oh, men should be strong, man doesn't cry. Then I saw my father cry when Brazil lost the game. Then I told him, Father, no, don't worry, I'm gonna win one World Cup for you. Don't worry. I was 9 years, 9 to 10 years old. Then 8 years late, I was in Sweden with Brazil with 17 years old. Brazil won the World Cup. That's a gift for God because I don't know why I promised to my father.
This is why you don't give up.
It was Brazil's first World Cup, with Pele scoring twice in the final against the host nation. In 1962 in Chile, Brazil won the World Cup for a second time. By now, Pele, at the age of 21, was an international star, and he was targeted with rough treatment. After scoring in the first game against Mexico, injury limited his contribution.
Yeah, a lot of you have told me that back in the day, it would get to a certain point where players like Maradona, Ronaldo, like it would get to a point where they were so talented, Pele, they were so talented that people would actively like try to damage them, try to break their legs, because it was a lot more of a rougher sport. VAR didn't exist back then, obviously. It was more physical. And when people just couldn't keep up with a certain player, instead of trying to, well, I guess they did try to keep up with them. And when that just didn't work out, they just went for straight up injuring the guy, which is absolutely insane. But that's kind of how a lot of sports used to be back in the day. Like old age basketball used to be like that, way more physical. If they couldn't keep up with somebody, they're just straight up slamming them or running into them. Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy how physical sports used to be.
Just 4 months before his World Cup campaign in 1966, Pele and his new bride, Rosemary, arrived in Germany. So great was Pele's international reputation that the couple were dogged by journalists. But Europe
Wow.
was interested in Pele for other reasons. The top clubs had been trying to tempt him to play in Italy or Spain, but Brazil's national treasure was staying put at Santos. At the start of what they had hoped would be a private honeymoon, cameras and the press continued to be intrusive, placing enormous stress on their new marriage. Just one day after her wedding, Rosemary was discovering what it would be like sharing her life with a superstar.
Oh.
Soon Pele and Rosemary would have their first daughter, Kelly Christina.
He looks so uncomfortable.
Soon Pele and Rosemary would have their first daughter.
He looks so uncomfortable. Oh man, that's kind of insane actually. I mean, it's what comes with the fame, but that's gotta be wild for her to witness that for the very first time. Jesus.
Kelly Christina.
She's like, yeah?
The 1966 World Cup tournament was held in England, and having won the two previous cups, Brazil were the outright favourites. 6 of Pele's Santos teammates were in the Brazil squad. Lula, the Santos coach, had stopped likening Pele to other players, saying he was incomparable. Rival World Cup teams started focusing on Pele and the other Brazilian playmaker, Garrincha. In the group stage, Brazil were defeated by Hungary and Portugal in controversial circumstances. The English referees seemed to miss an unusually large number of fouls to the top Brazilian players.
Of course he did.
After an incident in the game against Portugal, Pele limped for the rest of the game. This was before the days of red and yellow cards.
What?
Brazil
could just
did not make it beyond the group matches. After the tournament, a disappointed Pele declared he would not play any more World Cup matches.
That's actually insane because, well, for one, I didn't know that. I actually never had considered really what rules are modernized now versus what they didn't exist back in those days. So you can just beat the shit out of somebody and then just keep playing. Okay. Damn. I was gonna say earlier, I wonder, you know, as a black man from the United States of America, or, you know, as a brown-skinned man from the United States of America, I wonder what it was like for a brown-skinned Brazilian to go to a country like, you know, like an English country or Germany or something back in those days. Like, I wonder, like, what the experience was kind of like. You know, I'm not trying to make this whole video about racism. I swear on everything I'm not, but I'm just genuinely curious. Like, it's always interesting to see other brown-skinned individuals from different, you know, countries. I wonder what their experience is like when they go to these other, like European countries back in these days. Was the racism the same kind of, or, you know, was it different because they were a different nationality? I genuinely wonder what that was like. That's crazy though. You used to be able to just beat the shit out of somebody and just get away with it.
Play any more World Cup matches. So dazzling was Pele's on-field performance that he was dubbed Ore, the King. An act of parliament was passed to prevent Pele being lured to Europe, and the Brazilian government ensured he was the most highly paid professional sportsman in the world.
They sort of say, yeah, you can't buy this guy.
A wax effigy of Pele was displayed in London, and he found himself moving in exalted circles. To this day, heads of state and politicians are still keen to meet the legend. And because he was so widely known as the King, crowning ceremonies became part of Pele's ceremonial life. Museums around the world have different versions of Pele's crown.
Wow.
Now Santos were touring the world during breaks in the domestic season to play exhibition matches. The effect of these games was astonishing. During the Nigerian Civil War, a truce was declared so that people could safely see Pele play. The United Nations were starting to take notice, especially as Pele had an affinity with the young.
Ooh.
But not all the exhibition matches were triumphs. A friendly game played at El Campan Stadium in Bogota resulted in a melee, with Pele being sent off. This sparked a riot in the crowd who had come to see Pele play. Officials sent the referee off and reinstated Pele.
You can do that? Wait, you can actually do that? I've always wondered, how does that work in sports? Like, if the referee is clearly doing something that is just straight nonsense. I've always thought it was ludicrous. There was no way for that referee to get punished. It like comes off as like referees have all this power, and that's in any sport. Can they be sent off by a higher power? That's like Zeus sending Kratos to the underworld. I'm genuinely curious though. Like, are there other officials that can send referees off in games right now, or is that kind of not a thing anymore?
In November 1969, Pele had scored his 999th goal.
Damn.
And in an away game against Vasco da Gama, the crowd were keen to see the Molissimo, Pele's 1000th goal.
Molissimo.
When Andrada, Vasco's Argentine goalkeeper, prevented Pele's first attempt, the crowd in Rio's Maracana Stadium were furious, even Vasco da Gama fans.
I mean, his movement is different from everybody else's. You can just see it. Everybody else is stiff compared to him. It's kind of nuts. Like simplistic stiffer, you know?
At halftime, Santos were down 1-0, and Pele remained scoreless. Vasco were desperate to prevent Pele scoring, with their full back even heading an own goal to keep Pele from his record.
That's crazy.
Scores were now level. But after Pele was brought down in front of goal, the referee pointed to the spot, and history was made.
Oh my
80,000
God.
fans were jubilant. Both Vasco and Santos supporters acknowledged the king of football. High fences around the ground prevented spectators invading the pitch, but there were so many journalists and photographers there to record the moment that Pele was swamped. Across Brazil, people would remember where they were for the Molissimo. In the second half of 1969, the Brazilian team was back into qualifying matches for the upcoming World Cup. The final match of the South American qualifying round was against Paraguay, in front of a home crowd in the Maracana Stadium. Though Brazil was undefeated in the qualifiers, Paraguay was just one game down, and a loss for the home side would see the two teams on equal points with the need for a playoff match.
Isn't it just so strange, like seeing how old this footage is and seeing like the different movesets and people, like, you know, the things that they're doing here? You could see it in modern football. Isn't that weird? Isn't that so cool, man? Like, I'm watching a lot of these movements, and I just remember yesterday or the other day watching like Columbus Crew or Barcelona and Real Madrid, and watching like all of these different movements, positioning, passes, you know, headbutts, whatever you call that actual move. But it's so crazy just to see like this footage is old, you know, even the black and white footage, you can still see it. It's just so cool, man. It's cool to just see like how things were then and now, and there's still those similarities, you know? Time is weird. History is weird.
The crowd of 183,341 remains a world record attendance for a qualifying game.
Oh my God, that's a lot of
Brazil would
people.
be happy with a draw, but Paraguay needed to win to force a deciding extra game. At this time, only 16 teams could make it to the finals tournament, with England as the current cup holders and Mexico as the next host nation, both guaranteed positions. The contenders were playing for only 14 spots.
Got you. Wow, okay. Now it's what, 48 teams,
At
right?
halftime, neither side had managed to score. As the second half got underway, the light was fading. Finally, in the 78th minute, Gerson on the left made a shot on goal that bounces off the goalkeeper and is put away by Pele.
Damn.
Brazil made it through to yet another World Cup tournament. To this day, it remains the only team to have been at every final series. Pele had shown no sign of following through on his threat not to be involved in the next World Cup, but the whole team was aware that just playing beautiful football may not be enough to get Brazil to the last game. Brazil's 19...
I'm sorry, just look at these radios. It's so crazy, man. Everybody had the same mindset. We got to get this story. We got to get these last words. Going through history is so fun to me, man. I love history. I love studying history, by the way. That's just something I do on the side, but wow.
May not be enough to get Brazil to the last game. Brazil's 1970 World Cup campaign was headquartered in the Mexican city of Guadalajara. Though everybody was entranced by the footballing superstars, they were not the favorites. Coach João Saldanha, who had seen the team through a flawless qualifying campaign, had been making enemies. He said that Pele and Tostão would not play in the same team, even suggesting that Pele might be dropped. But Saldanha himself was dropped, and Mario Zagallo found himself in the manager's job. At first, he was reluctant to make any changes that would adversely affect public opinion. The turmoil generated by the last-minute coaching changes left the team looking vulnerable. This actually worked to Brazil's advantage. Years later, Pele discussed the pressure that comes with being the front runner.
There's some crazy pressure.
I don't like to be the favor, you know, because always when the team is the favorite team to everyone, they have a problem. I think if the World Cup was today, Brazil has a big chance to win the World Cup because we have a good team. But to be the favor, I don't feel comfortable because every time in my life where I saw the team come to the World Cup as a favorite team, they lost.
Mario Zagallo managed to develop a disciplined team that still left room for individual flair. The world had glimpsed his tactical creativity when, as a player, he changed the role of the midfielder to an attacking player. But it was widely believed that the defense was weak, and Brazilians had little faith in the squad's goalkeepers.
Damn.
Playing alongside Pele was Tostão. He regarded Pele as a kindred spirit and had an understanding about where he would be. Jairzinho was another attacking player in an attacking team. He had just recovered from a twice broken right leg. Pele was concerned about avoiding injury. Rough treatment had plagued his two previous World Cups. The tournament in Mexico would use a new system of yellow and red cards to make absolutely clear when a player was warned or sent off.
So
in addition to his
was this the birth of red cards? So this World Cup in particular was the birth of yellow and red cards, huh? And this will be the last time I pause for a minute too. What I really find interesting too is how people were able to find out about these like particular roster changes or movements or whatever, and how coaching staff was very careful on who like they played and what position or whatever because they were afraid of public opinion. Wild how people were able to find out anything related to these things before social media. Because now, anytime something happens, the first people to find out are social media folks within seconds of it happening. Or Fabrizio will tweet about it, one or the other, but it's interesting how people were able to find out this information before we lived in an age of knowing literally everything that's happening everywhere at all times.
Absolutely clear when a player was warned or sent off. In addition to his on-field and training duties, Pele was now having to devote time to his young fans. He was good at this. In the month before competition started, Brazil played an unofficial friendly match against a combined team from Guadalajara City. The Brazilians needed to adjust to local conditions. Not only would the competition be held at the peak of summer, but altitude would be a factor. Guadalajara at 1,590 meters and Mexico City at 2,240 meters both presented difficulties for athletic ability.
Harder to breathe, probably, yeah. That makes sense.
Any game time was valuable for the players to put into practice the guidelines that Mario Zagallo was giving them. Defenders were allowed to come forward if the situation was right. The team was rehearsing ways of transforming to different configurations without becoming vulnerable. Brazil would be in Group C with Czechoslovakia, Romania, and the big threat England, the defending champions. The crowd at the Estadio Jalisco watched in awe as Zagallo's system kicked into action. The well-drilled team that still made allowance for players of genius was being watched closely by other World Cup teams too.
I bet, yeah. Everyone wants to see how to defeat them, or to potentially
England,
defeat
who had a
them.
reputation as the best defenders, still felt that although Brazil had a devastating attack, they were fragile at the back. Critics were saying that a team of champions is not necessarily a championship team. Not many believed this, except the nervous audience back home in Brazil. In the end, no one was surprised that Guadalajara City went down to Brazil 3-0, with Ravelino, Clodoaldo, and Pele all scoring goals.
This is really interesting. It's just so crazy to see how different things used to be. I'm loving this.
Early in the group phase, Brazil met England. Satellite technology now meant games could be televised internationally. Matches against European teams started at midday to suit European viewers. England started confidently with several long-range shots that tested goalkeeper Felix PELE. Soon came a moment that lives in the memories of all who saw it. Pele's shot on goal was perfect, but Gordon Banks's reflex save was better. Then at the other end, Lee's header was saved. As the game
back and
progressed, the
forth.
temperature rose to 37 degrees. Because of the early start, FIFA had agreed to a new substitution rule for players without injury. Both sides were fierce in attack, but in the second half, the heat was causing England to wilt.
Wait, so what is 37 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? That's gonna be like what, maybe the 90s or up to 100 plus, maybe? Wait, I gotta Google this. Okay, I was right. 98 degrees around that mark. And that makes sense. The English people are from a very colder, country, a very colder region of the planet. So it makes sense. It's funny because during the FIFA Club World Cup, we had a lot of cooling breaks and a lot of people that were complaining about like the heat and the temperatures here in America or in the US. And it makes sense because if you're coming over from a region where it's a little bit more rainier, a little bit cooler, it doesn't get like this. I do know it does get hot in, England and, that region, but it doesn't get hot like how it does here in the Americas or some other parts of the world. Like we get some really crazy temperatures here. And just as an example, Arizona, one of the states in the United States of America, obviously, their temperatures can go up to 120 degrees, like just during the summer. It can be just a regular season and they'll just get like 110, 120 degree summers out of for no reason. And then they'll also get dust storms and the remains of hurricanes too. Like crazy place to live, really. But yeah, that makes sense. The temperature is going to be a big problem for people that aren't used to this kind of weather.
At the 100-minute mark, everything changed. Tosteo passed to Pele, who passed to Jairzinho.
Everybody looks tired.
Brazil's supporters in the Estadio Jalisco went wild. England had been regarded as their strongest opponent.
You can tell they look tired. All the English players look exhausted. Oh my God.
But England were not finished. Manager Alf Ramsey brought on Astle and Bell for Bobby Charlton and Francis Lee, and the team went all out for the equaliser.
But were they able to equalize?
Though they had chances, England just kept shooting wide. Brazil kept trying for some insurance, but in the end, Jairzinho's goal was the only score. In the final, Brazil dominated against a tired Italy. They triumphed 4-1. Brazil had won the Jules Rimet Trophy for a third time.
That's insane,
This was the same
dude.
trophy won by Uruguay at the first World Cup in 1930. The winner's name was inscribed at the base, and the statuette was held until the next tournament. But the charter stated that any nation winning it 3 times would get to keep it. The prize had spent
that.
World War II hidden under a bed, and it had been stolen in England and buried, only to be dug up by a dog named Pickles. The golden
What?
statuette of victory would now stay with Brazil forever. But nothing is so simple. In 1983, the Jules Rimet Trophy was stolen from the Brazilian Football Confederation's headquarters in Rio. Though the thieves were caught, they had melted the trophy down, and the prize that Pelé and his teammates had worked so hard to win was lost forever.
Why did they melt it? What? Dude, that is such an bro. Did they get the death sentence? I wouldn't be surprised if they got the death sentence, because that is insane. Why do you melt it down? The trophy itself would be more valuable than the gold itself, or something, right? That's wild.
On July 18th, 1971, Brazil played Yugoslavia in another landmark match. Pelé had announced that he was retiring from the national team, and more than 138,000 packed the Maracana Stadium to see Ori wear the Brazil shirt for one last time.
Oh, wow, man.
During his long career, Pelé had set many records, but this was different. The outcome of the match was unimportant, though Brazilians assumed that their team would win. Yugoslavia was a worthy opponent. The nation had fielded a World Cup team for the first competition in 1930, and at that time they had performed well in 5 World Cup tournaments. But the sight of the legendary number 10 jersey on the field was irresistible. The Yugoslavs certainly knew they were in hostile territory. Every time Pelé went near the ball, the crowd went wild. Brazil would come out victors 2-0 with goals to Revellino and Gerson. Even though the king did not score, it didn't matter. After the final whistle, he was swamped by the press. Like so many times before, the crowd had come to see Pelé. He paid tribute to the Maracana with a lap of honor.
Oh wow, man, that's gonna be a crazy
He couldn't
life.
score because of the tears in his eyes.
Wow.
On a television show, Pelé explained why he was retiring from the national team.
Olha, o seguinte, eu acho que a gente deve saber quando parar.
You should know when to give up. Yep.
Eu dei tudo mesmo na minha vida ao futebol brasileiro, à seleção brasileira. E entendi que agora, depois do tricampeonato, chegou a hora de eu deixar, entende?
Oh, he
Eu
retired at
completei
30?
30 anos agora, não alcançaria chegar a outra Copa do Mundo, que é em 74 na Alemanha. Se chegasse, talvez eu só iria começar. Então, eu resolvi dar oportunidade à seleção brasileira.
Wait, okay, so yeah, this was 1971. So yeah, wow, he would have been 30. He would have been 33. I mean, I respect it. He's won 3. He knows when he knows his time is up for it. I respect that. I mean, I respect it.
Entendi que agora, depois do tricampeonato, chegou a hora de eu deixar, entende? Eu completei 30 anos agora, não alcançaria chegar a outra Copa do Mundo, que é em 74 na Alemanha. Se chegasse, talvez eu só iria começar. Então, eu resolvi dar oportunidade à seleção brasileira.
Then viewers got a glimpse of an experiment with a new career path.
Meu bem,
Music. He's only 30 though. That's crazy.
porque depois perdão não tem.
Wow, I mean, to retire from the national team at 30 is brave.
Santos continued to play international exhibition games to show Pelé to the world. This match was against the Egyptian national side, the Pharaohs. Pelé was still playing well, and he could still draw a crowd. Never has a player been so strongly associated with one club. Pelé had helped to make Santos a dominant force in football, and Santos had made Pelé the best-paid sportsman of his day.
Yeah.
Yet there were problems with the king's finances. Unscrupulous business associates had sent him broke once, and Santos had helped him re-establish himself. Pelé now had investments in a range of places to ensure against any recurrence of his previous money problems. He was also guaranteed a share of the proceeds from Santos's off-season tours around the world, He was starting to look beyond playing to the next stage of his life. A sportsman's playing career isn't necessarily short, and Pele recognized that he was slowing down. Playing exhibition matches in distant places was one thing, but he did not want his adoring public in Brazil to see him struggling against quality opposition.
Which makes sense.
When Pele joined them, Santos was struggling, but thanks to him, the club had built a solid base. Today, it remains a force in Brazilian football. Santos beat the Pharaohs 5-0.
They look pissed.
One of Santos's more interesting exhibition games was against the Chicago All-Stars from the newly formed North American Soccer League. The Latino community had turned out in force to see their hero, and he didn't let them down.
Yeah, if you don't know that about Chicago, Chicago has a massive Latin American community. There are a lot of people in Chicago that are of Hispanic, Latino backgrounds and cultures. It's a very massive part. Same for places like Miami, California, obviously, Texas, obviously. And it reminds me of San Diego FC, one of the clubs out in San Diego. They have a huge Hispanic community that comes out and supports them in full. It's borderline another, like, it's borderline a South American club, damn near, with how they're like the crowds go, the energy, the atmosphere, the chants, everything. Like, there are a few clubs in America that, because of their, backgrounds within their communities, generally will give a lot of other clubs globally like a run for their money in terms of like atmosphere and stuff, because again, they have all of these amazing people from all of these different, Spanish speaking Brazilians, they speak what? Portuguese. They speak Portuguese, right? I'm sorry, I'm being super ignorant of America right now, but long story short, lots of Hispanic, Latino, different, communities back a lot of clubs in certain states in America, and they feel a little bit different, they feel more unique. I don't know a better way to word any of what I just said, so let's continue.
The game was an eye-opener for all concerned. Though the crowd of 14,000 was small by Brazilian standards, it was beyond anything that the organizers had hoped for. And the rockstar response that Pele got made Americans sit up and take notice. Head of the NASL was Phil Woosnam, a former West Ham United player. He needed stars like Pele to lift the profile of soccer in the US, and he made the king a lucrative offer. But Pele was now looking toward retirement and decline. He would not finish his career playing on AstroTurf.
Yeah, because they're playing on an NFL
Pele
field.
was summoned from the field early. Santos won 5-1.
I mean, they're playing on a literal NFL field, like an American football field. It's kind of crazy when you really look at it, right? Since they still do that now, but they actually changed the turf and the way the field looks, so it actually looks like a proper football field. But yeah.
After Pele finally retired from Santos in 1973, he started on a project that remains close to his heart to this day. He began a series of training clinics around the world. He said, "I want to bring soccer to the countries where it is undeveloped." He was passionate about this, and he knew his fame would attract big numbers. This skills and fitness session at the old Empire Stadium in the Maltese capital Valletta drew not just boys wanting to learn from the master, but there were several camera crews, and the seats were full. This emphasis on fitness had been important to Pele's success. After receiving injuries early in both the 1962 and 1966 World Cup campaigns, he had to focus on regaining his full capacity via specially tailored exercises. But he understood that front runners would also get more injuries, many of them not accidental. Being fitter than your opponent meant that you had a better chance of avoiding damaging situations on the field. Though skills work with young players became a theme in Pele's life, he was about to confront new difficulties that would change his plans. As a minor shareholder in a rubber company, he had signed a document making him responsible for a corporate bank loan that had gone bad. For a second time, Pele faced bankruptcy. Soon he and Rosemary were in New York signing a contract worth $4.5 million to play for the Cosmos in the NASL. This was a huge advance for the game in the US, but the people of Brazil were outraged that their hero had sold out to the Americans. However, Pele had driven a hard bargain. Cosmos owners Warner Communications, as part of the deal, had agreed to establishing a football school for poor children in the Santos area. By the time the king ran onto the field wearing green and white, it was revealed that he had also insisted on a Brazilian-US program for the exchange of coaching expertise across a range of sports.
I like that. So he didn't just sell out. Like, obviously, he had to do what he had to do to stay afloat, right? It makes sense. But at least he didn't just straight up sell out. He still gave back to Brazil, or it was specifically Santos. Like, I respect that, man. Wow. It's interesting because he's doing this during his retirement era too. Like that's that's kind of interesting.
The New York Cosmos were investing in big names. Germany's Franz Beckenbauer, the Kaiser, was also playing in green and white.
The Kaiser, what a name!
Like Santos, New York Cosmos embarked on a series of high-profile exhibition matches. This one was against hard-hitting Italian team Lazio. Pele's influence was now extending beyond his ability to score goals. He was one of a select few that started lifting the profile of the round ball game in the United States. But most of the players had taken positions at Cosmos late in their careers and soon realized that the standard was not all that good. Team harmony and discipline had fractured, with Brazilians only passing to Pele and the few American players complaining about the domination of their English teammates. And the NASL was messing with the rules. Americans didn't like seeing drawn matches, so if a game was still even after extra time, one player starting from the 35-yard line would dribble toward goal in an attempt to beat the goalkeeper.
What?
For his first 2 seasons at the New York Cosmos, Pele, though he was bringing fans through the turnstiles, was not able to make much of an impression on his new team's standings. Other teams in the North American League were reluctant to follow the Eastern club's lead and spend so lavishly on fading stars. Infighting within the team continued. It was as though the Cosmos was a team shaped by accountants, not by a strong and visionary coach. Pele's enthusiasm dwindled, and he began fulfilling only the bare necessities of his contract. He was losing condition, and it looked as though his final year with New York would end in disgrace. But halfway through the season, a very sudden change of coach brought quick results.
It's kind of like it was like a plastic team in a way, I guess you could say. There's really no real love in the team. It's like you just bring a bunch of people together and you're just playing. Like there's no actual like passion or anything, I guess, connecting these players, which I guess is why it's super important when players play on their like home turf back in their own like countries or whatever. You have a connection to the world around you. I'm not blaming Pele, by the way. I'm not. That's what I was saying. I just think I think if there isn't if there's no real connection between your teammates or the place that you're living within or anything, I'm going to assume it's probably going to be harder for you and all of your teammates to probably just have some kind of balance and work things out. Obviously, having bad coaching staff doesn't help either. If they're not passionate about it, I mean, your team's going to suffer too, so.
Brought quick results. The match against Lazio was typical of Pele's time with the Cosmos. Their games were well attended, with the giant stadium regularly seeing crowds of 40,000, but results were patchy. They lost to Lazio 3-2, and little was done to achieve long-term support for the game in the United States. With Pele's playing days coming to an end, the Cosmos organized a tour so the world could say farewell to the king of football.
I feel very, very, very sorry because I love soccer. And it's like a part of my life I lost. But it's very important when you stop in good shape, when you can't stop in good shape. Of course, I'm gonna miss a lot. I'm gonna be around, I'm gonna stay in a nice state. I asked to the coach if I can practice with the teammates sometimes. But it's important you stop when you are in a good position and
Yep.
the top of your career.
Yep.
I know I'm gonna miss, no doubt about.
You have to accept it.
Yes, October I back to Brazil, and gonna do things there, and then maybe in the season I stay 2 months, 2 months and a half, 3 months with the team at the Cosmo because I want to see games, to be around.
After Tokyo, the New York Cosmos continued on to Calcutta, where they would meet Mohun Bagan, Asia's oldest football club. The reception at the
Mohun
airport
Bagan.
was overwhelming. Everyone knew that Pele was popular, but this was something different. It was clear that he had become a global brand. Other players like Giorgio Chinaglia were ignored. Chinaglia would go on to become the Cosmos' most prolific scorer. Defender Brian Rowan was also bemused with the media response his teammate was being subjected to. The match against Mohun Bagan in front of 100,000 people was a 2-2 draw, but the result was not important. People just wanted to see Pele play, and increasingly, just to see Pele. He was accustomed to the media glare, and his easy, polite manner endeared him to the public.
Always when they come in another country, foreign country, I try to make the people happy because I know everybody is the same in life, you know? Then I love the people love me.
But this was the end of his playing career, and he was uncertain about what to do next.
I've always wondered what player reactions were like when they had a very particular player on their team that was just undeniably the most popular player. He got the most, the most photos, the most interviews, everything, right? So it is kind of interesting to see that other side of it a little bit, seeing their reactions, the rest of his teammates' reactions. They visibly looked a little irritated that they weren't getting any of that limelight. Goes to show that the importance of not being jealous either is really it's a big thing. Obviously, you shouldn't be jealous. You should always try to focus on your own success, I think, and it's frustrating, I'm sure, but being jealous doesn't get you anywhere in life either. I think sometimes in life you just have to accept the fact that I don't think anybody should necessarily be considered ever above you, but if somebody's got that special bit of limelight, you just have to accept that's just how it is. That's just how it is, especially if they're not a malicious person. People love Pele. And that's just how it is, He's been the king of football for 20 years at this point?
In conjunction with soft drink maker Pepsi, he embarked on a series of youth clinics to nurture talent in economically deprived parts of the world where plentiful talent was limited by lack of opportunity. He had no interest in a coaching role, yet he wanted to stay close to the game. He had been a generous contributor to children's charities, and this type of work allowed him to combine his humanitarian concerns with his passion for football. Although Pele still described himself as a simple country boy, others saw him very differently. Just after his retirement from football, Brazil's ambassador to the United Nations said of Pele, "He spent 22 years playing soccer, and in that time he has done more for goodwill and friendship than all of the ambassadors ever appointed."
Wow.
Though he had
that's
re-established his
insane.
financial security, he could not forget his humble origins and was keen to help young people find a way out of poverty. Here in Kenya, football had huge grassroots popularity, and although the athletic ability of the young players showed great potential, none were making the jump to international teams. Pele had influenced young people's attitude to the game in Brazil, and he was working to have players from developing countries take on a similar role. This became a media quest to find the next Pele, and to this day, talented young footballers are burdened with the epithet, the new Pele. But for Pele, these types of football clinics were about more than just improving skills. He believed to be a good player, you had to be a good person. These training exercises should also build character. Years later, he explained to young people in Mexico advice from his father that had guided his life.
Yo, cuando empecé a jugar, mi papá me decía siempre, oiga, tú quieres ser un gran jugador,
You need to pray because
tienes
God
que se
gave.
preparar, porque el don de jugar fútbol, Dios te lo dio. Esto no hizo nada. Ahora, si tú fueras siempre un buen muchacho, un buen hombre, siempre respetando la persona, siempre respetando el oponente, ahí sí usted va a ser un gran jugador, porque tú vas a ser mejor hombre de que deportista.
I respect
To
that.
celebrate
Wow.
his 50th birthday, 17 years after he had left the New York Cosmos, a charity match had been organized.
He looks exhausted, man.
Milan's San Siro Stadium was the venue, and a healthy crowd was there to see the king once again. He'd been in training, so he would not disappoint his fans. Pele led a
50.
Brazilian side against the rest of the world team. The match was such a success that it would be the first in a string of similar charity matches. Pele's work with youth has been a constant throughout his life, and
At
he still
50.
retains a peculiar aura.
At 50, man. Wow. Obviously, it's a charity match, but still, that's impressive.
Even though these players were born long after his on-field career ended, they still know what he achieved and hold him in high regard. This tournament brought together student teams from schools in Brazil, Bolivia, South Africa, and the United States. They experience other styles of play, but the international contact was also promoting understanding, and the United Nations was taking note.
Bom, eu sempre defendi a ideia de que o esporte
Sort of the-
é
I
a
agree.
melhor maneira e a maneira mais rápida, mais fácil de tirar as crianças das drogas, das ruas, não é? E é por isso que eu sempre, desde quando eu comecei, quando
This line right here is what we've seen in a lot of different videos. It's very cheap, and it is for poor people. Everybody can be there. This is why people, I think, have such an issue with it in America. And even, but I'm not going to lie, even Americans have an issue with how expensive the sport is in America, because to go to these different training camps and schools and youth academies, the pricing to do so is obnoxiously high. And I'm not just saying that to be the American hating on America. Actually, I love my country, all things considered. When it comes to sports, we live in an age now, especially where prize gouging and, you know, if you just don't have the finances to do it, sports are absurdly expensive now. It could be basketball, it could be American football, it could be soccer, any of this. It's very expensive to compete in America. And then you got the franchise system too for all of our sports. So that whole element of starting from nothing and going up is just, it doesn't really exist, you know? Now, back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you would see a lot of young kids come out of the hood to go play basketball. And that still happens, you know, nowadays too. But I really think it's becoming less accessible over time. And it's really being more, you know, focused towards the people that already have the finances. People call it like a nepotism, or, you know, a lot of modern players, nepo babies or whatever, right? I don't really like the terminology, because I think it is okay to be born into wealth, or, you know, some kind of like financially positive situation. Being born poor sucks. I've been almost homeless on a couple of occasions way back in my day. Being born poor sucks, right? So I don't really like just insulting people by saying, yeah, you're just a nepo baby, you don't matter. I think it's great you can be born into finances in this day and age. That's wonderful, actually. Especially for my fellow black folks, you know? All in all, I think America's biggest issue is just that it's too expensive to play anything here. And that is something that we have to find some kind of solution for at some point. Because you see a lot of kids nowadays, you know, or we've always seen kids in America that'll be outside playing basketball, they'll be outside playing football, and even on occasion soccer. But when it comes to actually getting into those leagues, that financial barrier has probably limited a lot of people who could have been the next greatest athlete from ever getting to a certain point, you know? And I know it's just a sob story, you know, everybody can't be rich, obviously, but it just sucks to know that there are people out there that could have gone somewhere, but they just didn't have the finances to do so. So tragic, but it is what it is.
eu fui ministro, que eu defendia, entende, e pedia para todas as sociedades, para os governos, investir no esporte, porque o esporte, você tira a criança das drogas. Então é um caminho muito mais fácil. É por isso que todas as vezes que tem torneios infantis, juvenis, eu estou lá. Pode me convidar que eu estou indo.
The emphasis is on football played to a high standard, Secondary benefits like tolerance and respect are instilled as part of the game.
Es una gran satisfacción para, no solo para mí, sino para toda la gente que está aquí, especial para Tawichi, que yo creo que para cada uno de los jugadores de nuestro equipo es un ídolo y me da más ganas de jugar y salir campeón en este torneo, ¿no?
For us, it's about learning experience and getting to know how other countries play football.
The international popularity of football keeps Pele traveling for most of each year. He graciously does the ceremonial duties that go with the opening of new playing arenas like this one in northern Greece. He's keen to see local games and he always has his eye out for developing players. Because he sees so many young players, he has acted as talent spotter for English Premier League club Fulham.
Really?
Pele's ability to attract publicity remains undiminished, and he cheerfully smiles and waves at the cameras and poses with fans.
Literally the Michael Jackson of football.
And there's always press conferences that give him the opportunity to spread the message of goodwill via football.
As you know, the football is, the way to put people together. And today, the biggest family in the world is the family of football. FIFA has more associated than UNESCO than the ONU.
In 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, a special tournament was organized between underprivileged children from Kenya and Brazil. But this was just an adjunct to a much larger event, the Rio Earth Summit. And Pele's role had changed as well. He was now acting as a UN ambassador for ecology and the environment.
Wow.
His travels had allowed him to see firsthand some of the problems experienced in the world's less developed areas. Pele's message was expanding. He had come from poor origins, and he instinctively understood the need to improve living standards around the world. But now he was linking this to the quality of the environment. His young audience had heard about ball handling skills outside. Now he was talking about clean water and clean air.
Damn, dude, I love this guy, man.
This was a role he took seriously. During a meeting with the German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder, he returned to the environment.
Tem uma mensagem muito importante para dar para todo mundo, que é o problema da água no mundo. Nós, daqui a 20 a 25 anos, podemos ter um grande problema de água em todo o mundo. E a FIFA está fazendo uma campanha, fazendo um movimento para chamar os jovens para maior proteção. E é uma coisa muito, muito importante. E eu fiquei feliz porque o chanceler disse que se precisasse dele, que ele estaria na campanha conosco para orientar as crianças para cuidar e se preocupar com o desperdício de água em todo o mundo.
Wow, I respect that,
Finally,
man.
at a press conference in Paris, UNESCO did formally appoint Pele as a goodwill ambassador.
In very many ways, Pele can be a precious asset to our organization in promoting not simply sport, but the essential values of sport, which are not so different from those of a culture of peace that, as you know, is the most important program of UNESCO. And
I'm sorry, I can't stop looking at this dude in the back with this very old school hairdo.
be a precious asset
I don't know
to
why,
our
it just looks funny to
organization
me.
in promoting not simply sport, but the essential values of sport, which are not so different from those of a culture of peace that, as you know, is the most important program of UNESCO. And I thank you very much for accepting.
He looks like Snape, but I heard what he said.
In Brazil, Pele was making a different type of contribution. President Fernando Henrique Cardoso appointed him to the position of Extraordinary Minister for Sport. He used this position to curb corrupt practices in Brazilian football administration, introducing legislation that became known as the PELE law.
Yeah, the PELE
Just
law.
before the 1998 World Cup in Paris, FIFA announced the World Football Team of the 20th century. Present to receive the honour were Carlos Alberto, the captain of Brazil's 1970 World Cup team, Nilton Santos, defender in 3 Brazilian World Cup sides, Alfredo Di Stefano from Argentina. He played for River Plate and Real Madrid before a successful coaching career. And of course, Pele, still regarded as the best ever. Other players nominated included Johan Cruyff, Franz Beckenbauer, Diego Maradona, and Michael Platini. After the ceremonies, Pele was keen to air his ideas about the future of the game.
What I fight, what I look, is to the players participate more. What we like is a more democracy. I think Mr. Blatt knows that. Everybody wants to change. I think they're going to change. All right?
Johan Cruyff is a name we've seen twice now. We're definitely going to be reacting to him.
Honours just keep flowing for Pele. When the streets outside London's Buckingham Palace were festooned with Brazilian flags, it was to mark the awarding of a knighthood to Pele for his humanitarian work.
Wow.
Pele was now an honorary Knight Commander of the British Empire, and he was mobbed the following day at a function at Chelsea's Stamford Bridge home. Representatives from the British government said they liked the enthusiasm that Pele can generate, and that the integration of sport with community development helps to overcome inequality and disadvantage.
That's crazy. Hey!
There's one team of young players that Pele watches very closely: Brazil. During the lead-up to significant tournaments when Brazil are preparing, Pele is usually there. Naturally, he loves Brazil and he keeps an eye on players' form, understanding who they will be up against in opposing teams. But sometimes he's called on as a mentor. Ronaldo's career bears similarities to Pele's. He burst onto the scene at just 17 and went on to World Cup glory. And like Pele, he suffered serious injury. He ruptured a tendon in his right knee during a match with his Italian side, Inter Milan. Despite the best medical attention and intensive physiotherapy, it looked like the injury would finish his career, and Ronaldo was losing hope.
Realmente passei a acreditar mesmo na minha recuperação, talvez depois que o Pelé teve na minha casa e que me comentava sobre uma lesão que ele teve em 1966 e que muitos médicos ameaçaram a carreira dele, dizendo que não poderia mais voltar a jogar futebol. E ele ficou 1 ano e 6 meses recuperando e retornou bem e ainda ganhou o Mundial de 70. E essas histórias realmente me motivaram, essa principalmente me motivou para eu não desistir e para eu continuar lutando para recuperar.
Pele convinced Ronaldo a complete recovery was possible.
Se fizer um bom trabalho com ele, não forçar a obrigá-lo a ser o Ronaldinho, a ser um Pelé, ou a ser um Maradona, ou a ser quem for. Se não obrigar, deixar ele jogar normalmente, eu acho que ele volta a jogar o seu futebol.
Damn, it's actually kind of crazy, like, to know, like, because Ronaldinho and Ronaldo played around the same era, right? They're not that much older from one another, so it's actually, that goes to show how much people have held Ronaldinho in high regard. That's crazy. That's actually so cool, man. It's so cool, like, learning this much about all these legends. It's even weirder seeing like what football was like for Pele's time, and then going up to this era, having reacted to what I've reacted to over the last couple of months. Like, this is kind of like full circle. This is like completing a full circle story around all of these different players.
Did, and went on to win the FIFA Player of the Year award.
Let me back up a bit.
Deixar ele jogar normalmente, eu acho que ele volta a jogar o seu futebol.
He did, and went on to win the FIFA Player of the Year award for a second time. The lead up to the Beijing Olympics saw Pele at the Forbidden City. Rio de Janeiro was in the running to become the host city for the 2016 Olympics, and Pele was in Beijing as goodwill ambassador lobbying his capital's proposal.
a big responsibility for me to represent all the players, all the sports players in the world, and to be here to congratulate those heroes, those boys, and congratulate also the big success from the Olympics here. Means a lot for me. And then I take this opportunity to ask to you, Rio de Janeiro, wait you for 2016.
The International Olympic Committee had shortlisted Rio along with Chicago, Madrid, and Tokyo. Because the Summer Games had never been held in South America, people believed it was Rio's turn, but the city was leaving nothing to chance. Pele was the Rio proposal's secret weapon.
Oh, yeah?
Para os meus amigos brasileiros, é uma responsabilidade muito grande estar aqui representando o nosso Brasil, lutando para conseguir a Olimpíada para o Rio de Janeiro, se Deus quiser, não só para o Rio de Janeiro, para o Brasil, mas para toda a América do Sul. Se Deus quiser, nós vamos conseguir.
All of South America.
Aqui e vamos seguir em frente. E eu fico feliz porque vocês veem que ainda o povo todo me respeita depois de todo o tempo que eu parei de jogar futebol. E eu espero não decepcionar. E se Deus quiser, nós vamos chegar lá. Obrigado.
At another press conference during the Beijing Games, Pele was back with a team and a slick presentation. Rio had tried for the Games in 1936, in 2004, and in 2012. And there was a feeling of inevitability building around this proposal. Having recently hosted the Pan American Games, Rio already had much of the sporting infrastructure in place, and the country's rapidly expanding economy meant that an Olympic budget was well within reach. It's impossible to underestimate Pele's contribution. His charm and easy wit continue to endear him to the press.
My time, professional could not be in Olympics, unfortunately. And with the respect to all the Brazilian, if I was there, Brazil will have the medal.
These days, presidents and prime ministers are happy to be seen with the man that retains the aura of the most skilled football player ever. His standing continues to grow through the responsible use of his popularity to advance concerns about underprivileged children and the environment. Rio de Janeiro won the 2016 Olympic bid, and Brazil will also be hosting the 2014 World Cup.
Wow.
This man, the king of football, will continue to remain at the heart of world sport. 1,280 goals, 3 World Cups, top goal scorer in the Campeonato Paulista 11 times, 9 in consecutive years, 31 team trophies, FIFA World Cup Golden Ball, and the best player who has ever played the beautiful game.
I mean, damn. It's phenomenal. That ending just gave me chills, dude. Holy smokes. I mean, wow. It's so fun to just do these deep dives and learn more about people and players that I just didn't know that existed at their times, man. And mind you, this is a very old documentary now. It looks like it ended around 2016, 2017. So that's, that's not that long ago. I honestly thought, considering it didn't really mention any like current, like modern or at the time modern players, I thought this was maybe like an early 2000s style documentary, but they're mentioning 2016, 2014. So you know, the Ronaldos, the Messis, they were all playing at this point. So that's interesting. Like, this is not that old or as old as I thought it would be. I have been told many a times of his footballing career, but all the humanitarian efforts that he did, he just seemed like a really good guy, like good person to interact with, always had a smile on his face, at least in all of these interviews and, you know, pieces. But 3 World Cups, 31 trophies, jeez, man. I don't think anybody's ever going to match that, but it makes sense why he's considered the greatest of all time. He invented an age of football. He invented an age where people grew up watching him play and develop their styles afterwards. The Maradonas, the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Ronaldinhos. There's so many different, you know, players that have watched him, probably studied him. You could just see like bits of his play style in a lot of these other legends that we've reacted to on this channel. And I was thinking about that when I was watching his skill showcase video. You could just see the motions and the talent in there. Like looking at him, like, damn, I've seen this in other modern and previously modern players. It's just so insane to actually see it in full, man. And it's wild just to watch like how the times changed around him too. You know, I'm paying attention to his footballing career, but as I'm watching this documentary, going from black and white and, you know, barely working television screens to you can see like the styles of him changing and the people around him, the technology advancing all the way to 2016. Like it's crazy to think how many people came from those older times and still lived into the era of modern technology, social media and all that. That's gonna be jarring to watch the world change around you that rapidly, right? Well, like when he had his like 70s and 80s looking outfits on, I'm like, dude, go back like 20 years into this documentary and just see how different things looked. It's so crazy, man. Sensational documentary. I love when you guys suggest these kind of things to me, man. They make getting into football all the more worthwhile. I love my highlight reels. I love my skill showcases, but I am a history guy and I love learning. I love learning about these players and what they've done for the world, what kind of influence they had on their communities, the people around them. I think all of that's just so crucial to being, well, great at anything. If the people around you love you, I mean, regardless of what your skills were, you're going to be a timeless person in their minds and their hearts for the rest of their life, for eternity, really, you know? Mind you, this documentary, from what it looks like, ended around 10 years ago. And from what I've seen in the comments, rip Pele, he's no longer with us, unfortunately. So again, you know, RIP. But just like I said in the in that Glory Days video that we watched on the Magic Messi channel, I didn't know any of this was going on. What was I doing in 2016? Oh, that was dude, Pele lived into the SoundCloud era of rap. That's actually kind of funny when you think about it. Oh man. So there is a world out there where Pele heard Exo Tour Life from Lil Uzi. Potentially. Maybe he did. I don't know. I'm just trying to be a little funny here. But thank you for watching, or thank you for recommending this, guys, and thank you for watching this reaction. If you enjoyed it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Hit that subscribe button too if you want to see more football related reactions out of me. And as always, this will be your boy Jay with another reaction. I hope to see you in the next video. I hope you have a great day. Peace.